Okay, so, oh, perfect, the microphone works. So thanks very much for staying to the end, because my topic is actually talking about the China and the European market, super huge difference. And I would like to dig more deeper to explain you why, what is the cultural reason behind lead to such a huge difference. So talking about myself, I'm Chinese, and I work in Changan Automotive, which is a national company owned by the Chinese government. And we mainly focus on Chinese market, so that's why some of you may not know this company, but you may heard of the brand Avatar in Munich, and it's our sub-company collaborates with Huawei. And we also have a depot launched in Munich like 2 months ago. So basically, for my job, it's right now I switch to more design strategist because I realized just by doing previous, I mainly focus on UI. This may not solve a core, like very crucial problem behind, especially based on culture and how people really use the new car. And so I try to turn the answers to meaningful directions to make design decisions. So first part, I would like to introduce about how different contexts lead to different priorities and how culture and lifestyle is so important to shape our future car needs. So from pasta to privacy, and a key learning is never change the recipes of French or Italian is like my key learning because my husband is French, and sometimes we fight a lot in the kitchen about how to cooking a certain vegetable. So that's why culture is very rooted in our mind. And also, for example, in German, like I've heard that like the data privacy is super crucial, and it's kind of something that you very hard to touch. So, but if you go to China, you will see cameras everywhere, and people love cameras. I can't say love, but it's people more perceived as a tool for security. So, for example, especially for the dashboard camera, you will see all the car install one because this is a help to if some accident happened, it's help for the police to check whose responsibility it is. So that's why Chinese more think it more as a tool for the security. And of course, Americans are very strict about the health data privacy. So this is all the culture things. Then back to the topic, how the culture shape our car choice. So for example, from segment, I lived 2 years in France and 3 years in Italy. For example, my first impression about the two countries is all the cars are so small compared to China. And of course, if you go, where Europeans, of course you know what's going on there because the cities are so historical, all the streets are very narrow. So of course, if you drive a huge car, you cannot really drive inside. And also in terms of the user part, I realized in Europe, actually, each family will have several cars, and each family member may potentially have their independent car. So that's why it's not necessary to have a big one. While in China, you will see the urban environment is very spacious, and so the roads are much wider compared to Europe, and it's also a huge traffic problem there. So when people in the traffic jam, they would like to have more spacious environment to sit very comfortably in the car while waiting the traffic jam gone. So also for the car usage part, in China, it's more like one family will have one car. And so that's why it's shared by maybe 3 generations. So the grandparents, the kid, the parents. So that's why Chinese much prefer larger vehicles. And the role of cars start to change as well, especially when the EV concept arrives. In Europe, as I noticed, people still think car as a tool, like a mobility tool from point A to B. So what you expect the most is still like, okay, the driving experience and how is this functionality, reliability of the driving. But in China, as we know, the technology developing so fast. So right now, the EVs start to be part of the system. So it's not like just a car itself. Why? So I give explanation because we know the IoT concept, Internet of the Things. So every digital devices is kind of connected, especially some tech giant like Xiaomi, like Huawei, they're trying to do. For example, your phone can connect to your rice cooker and you can set a time already, like remotely. Also for TV, for your washing machine. So of course, car, especially electric cars, it's kind of start to be part of a digital devices like integrated in this system. Here we also talk about brand image, which I perceive super different from Europe and China. So here, people very care a lot about the brand heritage. Like people want to know what is your brand history, and for the design process, what is innovation that you can call back for your heritage, for the legacy. This is such an important thing in Europe, and people are very proud of it. And so here, of course, I showed the example of a Mini, and you have a very iconic shape, the cluster. Of course, when they have the latest design, they're trying to call back about this design. But while in China, they value more about the breakthrough innovation. Why is that? Of course, the EV do not have a long history, and how to catch the user's attention. Of course, users do not expect a car just looking same as the other, like ICE cars. They are looking more, okay, show me what is new there. So that's why Chinese people are more open to something new, which is never seen or even maybe not that useful as well. So because the expectations are very different. And the last point is the key motivation. I found this EV thing super different because in Europe, if you mention EV, the most, the keyword pop in your mind is more like sustainability, like how it can reduce the carbon dioxide to protect the environment. And I noticed a lot of my European colleagues, they very care much, for example, during the production process, if it produces a lot of pollution, or the recycling process, if it's clean. Also, the material use should be like environmental friendly material. But while in China, it's maybe have a different motivation. I mean, from the user part, they care about, okay, technology, show me what's new. As I mentioned, it's like part of the intelligent system. They are expecting more like how it can connect it to all my devices, and also for the cost effectiveness, because many IC user change to EV products because in China, the electricity price is so low. And if you compare, it can almost save 80% of cost if you drive a petrol car. So this is I also ask a taxi driver because they need to drive all day to work. So I ask him, since he started to use EV, like how much money he can save from the energy cost. It's like almost 80%. Then of course, then you go to China, you will see almost all the taxis are EV right now. Of course, because of the motivation is different, then it means where is the point that user would like to pay for. So that's why during this conference, I saw a lot of concept, a lot of technology talking about how to reduce the carbon dioxide, how to give a more clean process. So of course, I think this is a European's attention, okay, how to use the technology to make it a better product. Of course, while in China, it's more like a digital experience. This is why the money all go for that. And second part is what we can learn from the Chinese HMI today. And so just one sentence to recap is fast iteration, deep integration, of course, rising a lot of complexity. So in the past few years, since we know the Chinese market, the EV start to grow very fast, and I think there's some initial feedback from the market start to take shape. So I would like to share like a quick research I've done a few months ago. So here is like a desktop research. We collected the top selling cars, which is 100,000 units plus per month. So we collect all these costs and trying to categorize them and trying to analyze how is the common point and what might be the reason behind why these cars succeed. So here we have 86 models, and 38 are EV, and 48 are ICEs. So this is like the data from last year, December. So here we just talk about the 38 EVs. About display. So actually, here I would like to say it's not about how many screens you have, it's about how well they work. So if you see the first picture, you see the central horizontal floating display. So the data is like among the 38 EVs, 28 are having this layout. So it means not vertical, not integrated, not a multi-display. I mean, 28 of them are having this layout. So actually, I feel this is something that maybe users already feel more comfortable with, or they feel like, okay, this one central display is already fits whatever I need. Of course, we see some like luxury or like more high-end premium segments. They are maybe trying more displays to differentiate their brand identity or the brand positioning. But generally, this is from this research learning I get. And also, second is about this display. Right now, users trying to compare quite a lot with tablets. So actually, this display is not really part of the car. I mean, it's not really just for car. People start to really compare a lot this tablet with iPad, for example. That's why here you can see the interaction maybe share quite a lot of similar logic, and people are expecting, okay, do you have something like an app store? Okay, you can have a lot of contents inside. And of course, the third feedback I have is the users start to go back more rational evaluation. They do not only check, okay, if the screen is I don't know, big or whatever, and they start to more evaluate, okay, is it working perfectly? Because previously we know there's some crash while the screen suddenly all turns black and it's not working, so people right now start to be very rational to care about how well it works. About buttons, and here we always having this fight talking about we should keep the physical buttons or not. So among the 38 EVs, 15 of them are not having any physical buttons. But if you see these brands which do not have any physical buttons are more like Li Auto, NIO, Aito, and Xpeng. I mean, these kind of brands are having IT background, actually. So all their founders, if you check their background, they are the tech, from really tech companies. They know how the development of a software. So why they do that? Because I also had the same doubt. Okay, if you have nothing physical, is it really work? I was scrolling a lot of feedback about their products. The users' feedback actually is quite positive. And some are saying, okay, once you really use their voice control, you don't go back to the physical button anymore. So I give you example, like how mature right now is the voice assistant in China. So we are not talking about only like a simple task, open the window, whatever. So you can, for example, give a continuous, very long task list. You enter the car, you say, okay, open the window, open the window, lock the car, turn on my favorite music, set the destination to the nearest petrol station, whatever. You give a long task. And the car can do it perfectly without disturbing. I mean, it can recognize perfectly and do all the things. And also, one thing, okay, it's a little bit touch the privacy thing, is they have a special option you can switch on, is the car can really listen to you like based on contextual conversation. For example, if you have a passenger and you're just talking, like just chatting to say, okay, do you feel hot? Do you want to open the window? And which is actually not a request of the not a demand for the car, so actually can recognize, okay, right now it's not the case you really want to open the window. It's more like you're talking to someone else. And when you really say, okay, open the window, and then the car will do it. And also it has some instant feedback. For example, you say, open the window, and the window starts to go down, and you say, stop, and you stop there. So that's why these very mature voice assistant kind of Chinese users love it. So they say, okay, if it's already smart and intuitive like that, why should I go back to physical buttons? But of course, this is only in the case the voice system is already super mature. And of course, the data privacy is a big thing, while in China, as you know, like people are not super sensitive about this task. And if you want to train a very smart AI, of course, you need a lot of data. And also, we know China has a huge population, and it's a unified language, so whole country speak same language. Of course, they have some dialects, but still, this doesn't affect the data training for the AI. So, of course, while in Europe, we know this is a very sensitive topic, that's why the AI still, I see the complexity to go further in a quick speed, let's say. So then in this case, for most traditional automakers, it's still much suggested to keep the physical buttons, because this is how you ensure all the interaction, all the control of car can be done very intuitively and in a more safe way. And the cluster, so among the 38 EVs, 4 of them do not have a cluster. Or like Tesla have nothing there, or sometimes, and 2 of them are putting HUD there, but not a cluster anymore. But from what I did, for clinic or for interviews, we realized Chinese customers still much prefer to have a cluster, no matter the size. It can be very tiny. No matter the shape, it can be whatever, but they just want something there, which they feel more safe. And of course, HUD becomes like a very mainstream standard feature. Most of them still all have it, just some entry level may not equip with HUD. But for most of them, it's already, HUD is considered as, it's a mandatory thing there in EV market. So however, like we see XPeng and Huawei, they are starting to go further for the AR HUD and to have like a real-time HUD feedback from the road. So this is like a new way to go, and there are still tech companies start to try it right now. So of course, from the Chinese market study case, we see the benefits, fast OTA updates, because these companies, they have a tech background, and how a software company works is like super fast iteration. Sometimes it's not when you are ready you do it. So it's you fail, but you improve very quickly, and then you iterate super quickly, and this is a loop. So that's how they can reach to a good level with short time. But of course, it's thanks to the Chinese users are very patient, and they were they can forgive sometimes if something fails, as long as you fix it quickly. So they're okay with that. And of course, tech giants involved in this game, so it totally changed how we use the car and how we perceive the car. And of course, HMI becomes like a key battleground for perceived technological innovation. So this is of course, the problem is we all know, like a lot of features are designed not for practicality. It's too complex. Actually, it's useless. Like we say, the karaoke thing. Like I would tell you, most of Chinese will not do it, even you have this function in the car. So of course, these will cause to a lot of high cost, but actually not very useful issue. So also, like many functions are not built to impress, not to serve. So the last part, how we breach the expectations, and what is the shared part, and where is HMI going? This is we all ask ourselves, right? So of course, the universal part is for the user part is we already know, like safety. Okay, very important, and the responsiveness, because screen lag is a universal problem, right? And of course, a clear information hierarchy. Right now, in Chinese companies, they are putting too much information just in the central display. So that's why for driving information and for the, for example, shortcut to the quick interaction, and also some key functions, they are too much integrated. Of course, this is not clear hierarchy. And actually, it's even worse than the traditional car. So, of course, this is important. But, of course, talking about the diverging side, localization is becoming very important. So before, if we have a car, for example, Volkswagen really wins the market in China. At that time, like people are, how to say, for the basic needs, they are very similar. But right now, since we see the culture and the users' expectation are so diverging differently, of course, the localization starts to be very important. And of course, for the technology side, the Europeans want a more mature, okay, proven tech. I don't want to try something too risky, too new. Give me something more reliable. And while in China, people are open, okay, no problem, it's not mature yet, but as long as you give a fast iteration, I can accept it. So that's why we're talking about the further we go beyond the basics, and the localization is more important, and the culture and context begin to really to be very important. And so here is like some prediction about the future HMI, and here is the study like we know about smartphones, talking about screens. And of course, we from a Nokia phone, like the very physical buttons one, and to small screen, and right now to have a like big screen. But how big we can stop? So here is the data already showed. At least in Chinese market, right now the size is fixed between 6.1 and 16.7 inch. So it won't go bigger. Also, it doesn't go smaller. And for example, in the right side, you will see Huawei and Xiaomi actually they tried extra large screens, but actually they all failed. So right now, if you check the mainstream Chinese mobile phone market, nobody will go more than 6.7 inch. So of course, what means for our EV costs? So it means right now it's kind of still in the testing phase. We do not know where is the range going to stop. But to a certain point of time, I do believe like there's in the future for whatever reason it will stop somewhere. So it won't go too big or it won't go too small. So it will stop in a certain range. But still, right now we need to test in the market. And about the controls, so the physical button stays or not. So here I think it depends on two criteria. First, the evolution of interaction methods. As we mentioned, like if we, in China, like the voice system is so mature that it can already replace so many things, then why not? But of course, in the case like data privacy or whatever, people maybe are not feeling very comfortable to let the car hear what I'm talking about. So of course, in Europe, these may diverge. Like people still want like the physical button to control, which is totally fine because it's doesn't affect what you use, how you use the car. I mean, doesn't affect the key function of the car, so it's totally fine. And of course, the second scenario will be more futuristic, the disappearance of interaction needs, which means, for example, if the car already, is so smart, which he already knows what is the perfect temperature, he knows you're sweating, okay, let's reduce temperature, or you're feeling cold, let's rise the temperature, which is so smart, you don't need to even control. So of course, then if it's so smart like that, yes, you don't need to control. Of course, then you don't have buttons there. And about cluster, this is a very interesting because some companies are trying to remove clusters. But in my mind, this is still very representative and typical thing to represent a car. So I think from the technology-wise, it will have different technology and format of cluster be there to replace or to improve the traditional cluster, and also adding more, for example, like contextual scenarios, feedback, whatever there. So it will still there, but the format, the shape will change, but still it's a cluster. And for the user side, they still need this emotional and the safety feeling. So for example, we know the airplane or the high-speed train, they are actually kind of already, it's autonomous, but people still need these things to feel safe. And of course, the third is also important for especially European brands. It's kind of very symbolic and heritage from the brand. It's very iconic. It has a history. So no matter how the technology involved, but sometimes it is still remain as a brand heritage. So my key learning about user, especially for the Chinese market, actually users want to be entertained. they don't even know how. So means you ask, okay, how do you want to use the screen? They say, I don't know. I don't know what is inside. Just show me what you can do for me. So they don't know how they want to be entertained. And so what they really want is a rational solution that feel emotionally engaging, which means no matter format or whatever, they want something, okay, entertain them, but the function-wise, it should still be very practical and solve the actual pain points. And my key learning as a designer, it's a game of balance. Why I say that? Because I work a lot with European colleagues. I also work a lot with Chinese colleagues. So I see the very funny part of the two extreme side. And on the European side, it's more like a very cautious, very practical, okay, let's do not go too fast. It's a bit dangerous, risky. But of course, the risk will be if we go too much on the left side, you risk in lost attention of the user. So because other brands are doing new things, and the people think, oh, you're not doing anything new. Okay, I don't want to see you anymore. So you kind of already out of the game. So this is this risk. But from the bold and the creative side, of course, this is as Europeans, I think you already know, like you create a lot of useless functions and increase the complexity, and which is even more dangerous for the user. So of course, it's very important to find the proper balance in between. And how we do that, understand who are your target user and what is your brand position. Of course, if you are talking about your super mainstream brand and you want to add a plain screen, it doesn't work because your target user might be very practical. So, so this is what I learned. But of course, if one day autonomous driving becomes super mature and really free our hands, then it will completely reshape how we use the car and the relationship between us and car. So this is like in the future, someday. Okay. So thank you very much, and thanks for staying till the end. And if there's any questions, yeah.